What's up, guys, and welcome to QnA, the show where I take your questions and answer them here in video format. A ton of questions coming off of the Browns win against the Steelers on Sunday. This first question comes from 827 Productions, who says, do you think, given the offseason and more time to become familiar with Stefanski's offense, that Baker will be an MVP candidate next season? MVP candidate's a little, out there. I don't know if he's going to be that good, especially that good considering, the amount of ways that people are going to be able to tunnel out of Baker Mayfield for MVP if he was putting up crazy numbers. They'd be like, well, Odell and Jarvis and, Nick Chubb. And, they would say he has too much help to be considered. But I think he can put up very good numbers, very strong numbers, and, help this team continue to grow and get much better. I just don't know if they would ever allow him to be considered an MVP candidate, because you can kind of almost hear it, right? Whenever Baker has a good game, people are like, well, he has a loaded offense around him. And they still act as if he's still throwing to Odell all the time, or Jarvis and, Odell, or healthy Jarvis. We know what the situation has been for the wide receiving room. We know it's been up and down. We know it's been people stepping up like Donovan Peoples-Jones and Rashard Higgins, and Kadarius Hodge, people that a lot of people have never heard of stepping up to fill that void. But I just don't think people are ever going to give him the credit to be able to be an MVP candidate. One, because the offense that he's in. Two, because of the amount of talent that is perceived to be around him. That's always going to be a hurdle for him when it comes to MVP conversations. The next question comes from CKB Highlights, who says, hey, Quincy, do you think that our young players from LSU, Jacobs, Greedy, and Delpit, are the long-term answer for the defense, or should we try to get new young players and veterans to be long-term solutions? Well, the problem with getting veterans to be long-term solutions is that you really aren't going to have that much cap space to be playing around with, right? You got to re-sign Wyatt Teller, whose contract is up, I think, in this year or in the next year. Either way, you're going to have to get a deal done with him soon, right? I think that's pretty agreed upon. We need to lock up Wyatt Teller, Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield's going to come up, and then you go on the other side, Denzel Ward's going to come up. That's going to be a big money deal. So Ronnie Harrison, somebody you would want to keep. That's also going to be some money there. So you got as much veteran help as you're going to get. I mean, you can always sign the Carl Josephs of the world on one-year deals and, fill holes that way. But I think the way you do it is by investing in the young guys that you already have and developing them. Grant Delpit's a little bit of a tricky case because of the Achilles. I don't know what he's going to look like, but why not invest in somebody like Jacob Phillips? Again, Greedy Williams has to prove he can stay healthy, but, I don't think the situation for outside, boundary corners is that dire to where you have to draft somebody, just because you need Ward or somebody else replaced, maybe just re-sign Terrence Mitchell or something like that. So I think it's going to have to be a mix, but more than likely it's going to have to be the players that you have, already under control, and then maybe you feed in some rookies here and there. But we're going to get to that point pretty soon here where there's not a lot of flexibility to be had. The next question comes through Giants Nation, who says, what's up, Quincy? Congrats on the playoffs and most likely going to be Browns and Giants in the Super Bowl. LOL, my man. You sent that before Sunday Night Football. My question is, if Baker wins a playoff game and Lamar loses again, what would the media's reaction be to that? I don't think they would ever connect those thoughts, right? I don't think it'll ever become a narrative or a thing, because it's not something that the media is necessarily looking for. The conversation locally might be about Lamar and Baker Mayfield, but the conversation nationally is comparing Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. That seems to be the only two that get attention or focus at this point, and for good reason. Lamar Jackson didn't win the MVP last year, and Josh Allen has been incredible this year with the Bills team that has won their division. So they deserve to get more credit, more attention than Baker Mayfield and the Browns do at this point. But, I don't think they'll ever connect. But I just don't think they'll ever connect those dots. I think Lamar losing in the playoffs again will just be another hit on Lamar, and people will say he can't win in the playoffs. And if Baker wins in the playoffs, I think people will be like, okay, cool. I don't think people are going to connect those dots and necessarily compare the two, because people just don't seem to ever, at least nationally, connect those dots with Lamar and Baker for whatever reason, or really get to comparing those two. It's always Josh Allen and Lamar that they're always comparing. So I honestly don't think it's going to be a conversation or that anybody's going to have or even think to bring up. You know, I don't think that's the comparison that people are making. It's kind of weird where Baker exists in that conversation of 2018 draft class quarterbacks, where it's like people talk a lot about Lamar and a lot about Josh Allen, and then like Baker Mayfield's just like in there hovering underneath the surface. Is a lot like 2012, where, you know, a lot of conversation was about Andrew Luck, and then a ton of conversation was about RG3 and which one's better, Andrew Luck or RG3. But there's Russell Wilson just existing back there, nobody really talking about him or hyping him up in that same way. And it ended up being Russell Wilson was the best quarterback out of that draft class. Ryan Tannehill, you can make the argument, was the second. You know, it might just be like that. You know, that's just where people were at with that conversation. And even then, nobody really compared Andrew Luck to Russell Wilson, vice versa, Ryan Tannehill to Andrew Luck. Like, those conversations never happened because nobody ever connected those dots. Me, too, even to this point, like up until now, I haven't connected those dots. This next question comes from MXCHAEL, who says, if we end up with greedy Denzel back and Miles is playing at 100%, do we believe we could possibly even beat the Chiefs? Should we make it that far? Absolutely. If the defense is playing at like a top 15 level and the offense is clicking on all cylinders, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit for this team. This next question comes from Wally Ahmad, who says, hey, Q, I love our coach, but why is he so dead set on not doing any screen plays or having Baker do dump passes to the backfield or out of the backfield? Well, I mean, they're there, but they like to go downfield. They like to take shots in their passing offense to complement the run game. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? You don't want to do a ton of short passes when you're going to run the ball a ton. I think that should be understood because you don't want to get defensive players used to being close to the line of scrimmage, whether it's going to be a run or pass, right? You want them to make a decision. Either you're going to get close to this line of scrimmage and you're going to try to stop the run, or you're going to get away from it and try to stop the pass. But if you get up on this line of scrimmage, I'm going to throw it over your head. That's the threat. That's the fear that they like to put in with this offense. So I don't really have a problem with that. Sometimes they can bring some more screens in, I guess, but I think they do a good enough job with the screens. You know, sometimes they have some design like dump offs to Jarvis Landry they like to do, the tight end screens that they do. You know, they'll have a slip screen here or there for Kareem or Nick Chubb. I really don't have a problem with that, and I think the main philosophy with the passing attack needs to be attack downfield successfully so people can get off that line of scrimmage and get people off the line of scrimmage so you can run the ball. Next question comes from Marino, who says, what up, Q? Will we see Sheldon Day next week along with Tedrick Thompson, the other safety? And will we be back in time? Or will BJ be back in time? Also, will Hunt have a big game, 1,000 yards also? BJ should be back. And no, I don't think you're going to see Sheldon Day or Tedrick. If they didn't see the field Sunday, they're probably never going to see the field. That just is what it is at that point, right? Because this was kind of like doomsday 30 break glass if it's an emergency in the secondary and they didn't get in. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't think they're going to play. And then will Hunt have a big game? He should be primed for one. He hasn't had a big game in quite a while. He hasn't really been Kareem Hunt in quite a while. So I hope he can get back to being himself. This next question comes from Eli Franklin, who says, hey, Q, do you think the Browns can make a run to the Super Bowl? And what do you think they need to do to make that run? What they need to do to make the run? Play better defense and click on all cylinders on offense, and then anything's possible. The good news is that I think talent-wise, both of those things are definitely achievable. It's just whether the Browns are lucky enough to be able to achieve it or not. That's going to be the question. This next question comes from Beep Beep Out of My Way, who says, how did the Browns fix their communication problems in secondary? I mean, the common denominator, the games where the Browns don't seem to have secondary issues when it comes to communication, seems to be Ronnie Harrison getting a ton of snaps. I think he is clearly the solution when it comes to that. He is clearly somebody who sets the tone in communication and does a really good job of getting everybody aligned. it seems like whenever he's taking a ton of snaps, these issues seem to go away. The next question comes from Chad Cullen, who says, do you think Stefanski and the coaching staff kept their play calling vanilla not to tip their hand for next week playoff matchup against the same Steeler team? I think there was a little bit of that going on. I think they were like trying to see how little they can do to win this game without tipping their hand. And that's playing with fire a little bit, right? Because this game could have gotten out of hand and then you would have been kind of SOL on that front. But it worked out for them, and I think that's what the plan was. You know, hey, we're not going to put Myles Garrett out there a ton. We're going to keep him on a snap count. We're going to put Nick Chubb on a snap count just to get him some rest before the playoffs. You know, we're going to be careful with how much we do certain things, what kind of looks that we go with. I think he was playing a four-dimensional game this week. You know what? To his credit, he had success. He won. So can't blame him. It was a risky kind of go of it, knowing that, like, if you didn't win this game, you did not get in. But, you know, it worked out for him. But that's it for this week's questions. Again, thank you guys for asking them. Have a great day. Have a good night.